ちはニューヨークで生まれ育ちました。そしている皆さん、ここにいる皆さんにはニューヨークに残ってほしいのです。私はアイセスに忠誠を誓う。アラフアクバル。
Thank you to the good men and women over there at PsyOp Anime for that. We've been appreciating those videos. Wake up, America. Today is Tuesday, March the 10th. Cecilia is here. I Given a Shits, Relaxia McGroin, Tater Salad, Kermode, Bear, St. Selma, Steffi P, Thormox, Siggy's mom, BB for Liberty. That's all I need. It's go time. All right, guys. Well, if you thought the world was going to take a breather while you have your morning roast, you've not been paying attention to the mother of Satan sitting on her front porch. New York City is currently cleaning shrapnel off the pavement, while the pundits on cable news are still stammering, searching for the quote-unquote right words to describe a trunk full of high explosives. We're looking at the cold, hard reality of a security system that didn't just fail, it was blind by design. Pull up a chair, everybody. Pour yourself a double shot of Jeffersonian Java and hold on tight. We're bringing order to the chaos today. We're not just looking at the who, what, when, where, why. We're looking at the people in charge. Why are they always the last to know? And why the smart betting money was already betting on the disaster. This is the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Petersen, streaming live for the front lines of the information war from Jefferson City, Missouri, where it's a nice, breezy 63 degrees. Don't you love that weather change? Oh, it feels so good. I hate the time change, love the weather change. A little warmer. Feeling good in the neighborhood. All right, we start with the smoking gun, or maybe the smoking pressure cooker. We're breaking down the federal charges against Emir, Balat, and Ibrahim Kayumi. These weren't misunderstood youths or lone wolves looking for a hobby. They weren't future doctors or lawyers. These were ISIS-inspired operatives who cooked up TATP, which is the chemical witch's brew known as the Mother of Satan, right in the Pennsylvania suburbs. They then drove it straight to the mayor's front door at Gracie Mansion. And while the FBI was busy tracking your social media posts and categorizing Catholics as domestic threats, they missed jars of volatile shrapnel moving across state lines. But it gets worse. We have the intellectual class, the Mahmoud Mamdanis of the world, telling us that we can't judge. Mamdani infuriated the country by suggesting that this brand of terror is just a political byproduct of Western identity. He wants to strip the evil of its agency and blame the victims. On this show, we'll call it what it is, malpractice. We'll be skewering the excuse makers and telling the truth that the media is too terrified to put on any other show other than this show, where you will hear the news a day before it happens. Now, Camelia's off today, so we're going to go deep in the Caribbean with a high-voltage re-airing of my interview with the incredible Marissa Diaz. She's the heart and soul of this Yol and Mari channel, and she has her finger on the pulse of the imminent fall of Cuba. President Trump has put the squeeze on Havana, and the cracks are starting to turn into canyons down there because they're out of power. So we're talking about the total collapse of the socialist experiment under the pressure of American resolve. Marissa breaks down the recent comments from the Oval Office. Don't you just love seeing the third worldist dream dying all over the world? The third world is losing. The first world is winning. This is Wake Up America. We're also going to talk about a story that I found really compelling and might tickle your noodle as well. Self-driving cars and unmanned AI vehicles aren't just causing traffic jams, they're causing carnage. So we're going to look at the recent spike in accidents and the total lack of accountability when the algorithm kills. But there is a history lesson here, America. From the Luddites to the locomotive, the establishment always tries to use technology to strip you of your agency. If you think that the fight for the steering wheel is just about commuting, you're missing the bigger picture of human liberty. The elites want a world that they can manually override, a world where your movement is permitted, not owned. So we're talking about why the establishment is terrified of some technology that they can't politically tax into oblivion, and why the fight for the driver's seat, I believe, will be a new frontier in the fight for the Bill of Rights. So we're going to have a great show today. And you can't talk about the future without talking about prediction markets. So while the corporate media was spinning narratives about New York and the experts were telling you that the suburbs were safe, the markets were already pricing in the risk. All right. So prediction markets are kind of one of the last unfiltered BS detectors that we have left in the modern world. The elites hated them until they finally got properly invested in them. And now the elites like them. Isn't that funny how that works? That it's like the marijuana industry. Remember all those congressmen who voted for years to keep marijuana illegal, but then once it got to where it had reached a breaking point and they knew that it was a winnable issue at the ballot box, they all made sure that they had their investments squared away, and then they passed the legislation. So we're going to talk about that this morning, and we're going to talk about why the freedom to bet is an ultimate threat to the narrative mongers in Washington. Finally, guys, it's time to celebrate our heritage. You guys noticed that 250th anniversary Betsy Ross embroidered flag polo? Look at that. Beautiful. If you guys have not seen our 250th anniversary collection yet, you're missing out. Make sure that you visit the Grift Shop this morning and help to unlock that bonus content. Quest Fanning just donated $5 and says, I've seen some other people's agency. Not too great. Okay, we got it. Let's get as far away from that as we can here for a second. Austin, you got to manage that better. Somebody went to the Grift Shop this morning and made a nice little purchase. Did they see my beautiful shirt? No. They went and they saw the comeback with a warrant doormat. Also a beautiful product. Thank you, by the way. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, you'll see Stephanie has made a beautiful 250th anniversary collection. When you click on the collection and scroll through, you'll be able to find all these awesome items that she made. I'm wearing the 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt. I'll pull it up for you on the big screen here again. So if you're like Joni Rankin, you like to watch us on the big screens, you'll be able to see it right there. Nice quality embroidery, 250th anniversary Betsy Ross flag with 250 in it. And again, high quality, nice soft polo. I got mine in extra large because I've lost some weight, baby. I'm looking good today. I'm feeling sexy, ready to rock. Help us out over here at forlibertyshop.com. Now, there are people like, all right, Austin, maybe that's too far. If you want to feel sexy, head on over to forlibertyshop.com like our buddy Will did and get yourself a comeback with a warrant doormat and grab a 250th anniversary polo as well. So Will's been eyeing that doormat for a couple of years now. Get it, man. Well, now you got it for the low price. BB for Liberty, he got his new hat yesterday. His was the looks like a veteran's hat. It says retired drug dealer. Now that could be for if you have a pharmacist in your life. If you know a pharmacist, that would be an amazing gift. If you had a pharmacist buddy, then get them the retired drug dealer hat at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com, and we're going to have a great morning already. I can tell. We're going to unlock that bonus content. Let's do it. All right, picture it, my friends. The year is 1771. We're in Paris, the city of lights, which at the time was mostly the city of smells. It was stinky. The revolution is brewing. But before the guillotines arrive, a military engineer named Nicolas Joseph Cougnon has a brilliant idea. He wants to replace the stalwart, reliable horse with a 3-ton tea kettle on wheels. He builds the Fardier à vapeur. It's got a massive copper boiler hanging off the front like the jowls of a tired bureaucrat. He stalks the fire. The steam hisses, and the beast lurches forward at a blistering, life-threatening 3 miles per hour. But old Nicolas forgot one minor detail: the brakes. He's chugging toward the Paris Arsenal wall, panicking, probably reciting his act of contrition in French, and crunch, stone meets copper. The wall crumbles, the crowd gasps, and Nicolas Joseph Cugnon becomes the first man in human history to be arrested for reckless driving. Congratulations. It's a true story. The state didn't know what it was. They just knew it was loud, it was broken, and it didn't have a soul. Sound familiar? 250 years later, we've traded the copper boiler for a lithium battery, but the machines are still crashing into civilization. Fast forward to last week. 2 a.m., West 6th Street, Austin, Texas. The live music capital of the world has turned into a fire zone. A mass shooting. 3 people are gone, 14 are bleeding out. Sirens are wailing. The air is sticky, and an ambulance is screaming toward the scene to save a life. And then, out of the gloom, comes the ghost car. A Waymo robo-taxi. No driver, just a spinning LiDAR bucket on the roof and a dashboard glowing with the cold, unfeeling light of Silicon Valley. The car sees the flashing lights of the cop cars and the ambulance, and it has a computational nervous breakdown. It doesn't pull over. It doesn't panic. It just stops horizontally, dead center in the road. The algorithm decided the safest thing to do was become a 2-ton speed bump for the first responders. The cop on the scene is literally shouting at a piece of code. He's yelling at the car's external microphone, probably asking to speak to the manager at Google, while someone is bleeding to death in the back of the ambulance. The future has arrived, folks, and it's parked directly in the way of our survival. Oh, but the nerds in Mountain View have the data. They've got the spreadsheets. They'll tell you with a straight face and a turtleneck that these disco balls on wheels are 91% safer than you, the human driver. That's you, the breathing, thinking, driving American citizen. Now, to the tech elite, we're sort of just a biohazard with a lead foot. They point to the 40,000 people who die on the roads every year and say, see, humans are trash. Give the keys to the robot. Okay, well, they may be right about the statistics, but here's what the wisdom of the algorithm misses. A human driver might be an idiot, but at least he has a conscience. If a human blocks an ambulance, he goes to jail. If a Waymo blocks an ambulance, Google sends a system update. So we are now entering a new era of humanity, similar to older areas with different problems. We are trading human accountability for a statistical veneer. They want us to believe that if the total death count goes down, it doesn't matter if the deaths that are left are caused by a robot that can't tell the difference between a strobe light and the gates of heaven. Now let's look at the visionary in the room. So our friend Elon Musk, King of Mars, he's been telling us for years that driving will eventually be illegal. And folks, I have to say, being a pessimist in some ways, he's probably right. Now, he's not saying that because he hates freedom or because he wants to make driving illegal. Elon is saying this because he's a mathematician. He envisions a world where your steering wheel in your vehicle is a relic, like a buggy whip or a rotary phone. See, to Elon and to many in Silicon Valley, the human driver in our vehicle, that's the weak link in the chain. They want to turn your car into a sort of mobile lounge where you can work, sleep, or tweet, of course, while the machine handles the logistics. And look, guys, on paper, that sort of sounds like a libertarian utopia. The ultimate democratization of the chauffeur. Drunken driving incidents are going to sell it as good for kids. You know, you've got a child, you don't want to have to put a child in a car that has somebody you don't know, and where on God's earth are they going to take them? Right? You could probably say to a lot of parents, well, you're not going to have to worry about your child's safety because we have a 99.9% safety rating, and you don't have to put your child in a car with a human being. I mean, this will revolutionize transportation. But here's my question for you. Who's accountable? There's a massive glaring question in this that the tech titans aren't answering. So if the system is the driver, who is the defendant? Okay. Are we ready for the legal reality of a world without individual agency on the road? This, when I say that when you watch the Wake Up America show that you're getting tomorrow's news today, tomorrow you're going to start seeing stories on the legacy media or on other podcasts, maybe today, later today, you'll see on podcasts, and then tomorrow on the legacy media. And then maybe a year or two from now, you'll see like an ABC piece or something where we're discussing and debating these questions about what should be allowed driving wise and what's going to happen with liability for when these vehicles are inevitably involved in other incidents. So we're now living in a digital version of back then what they called the Red Flag Act. So back in the day, the British were so scared of cars that they made a guy walk in front of them waving a red flag to warn the horses. Today, we have remote assistance. So when the Waymo gets confused in Austin, Texas, a guy in a cubicle in Phoenix has to log in and try and unstick the algorithm. But here's the kicker. When that car phantom brakes because it saw a shadow and it causes a pileup, or when the pedestrian, or if it hits a pedestrian because the remote agent had a laggy connection, who goes to jail? You can't put a line of code in a cell, right? You can't lock away. You can't revoke the license of a data center. The NHTSA is probing these incidents, but they're using 20th century laws for 21st century chaos. If you remove the human from the wheel, you're removing the moral agent. And in a free society, I don't know if you can have authority without responsibility. So let's talk about incentives. Follow the money. Amazon's Zoox, Z-O-O-X, is building cars with no steering wheels at all. It's a toaster on wheels. Why do they want to do that? Well, because they want to move us from ownership of these vehicles to subscription. They want mobility as a service. Now, guys, I love capitalism as much as the next guy, but I also love assets. If you own the truck, you control the trip. If you rent the algorithm controls you. If a Waymo blocks an ambulance in Austin, Texas, is that a tragic glitch or a systemic design flaw? And if the corporations own the drivers, do they also own the liability, or are they going to lobby the government for innovation immunity while you're left holding the bill for a crash you didn't cause? So we're trading the rules of the road for the rule of the terms of service. And I've got a feeling that no one is reading the fine print on this one. What are your thoughts? The moral clarity on this one isn't being anti-tech. I want the future. I want a robot chauffeur. I want to be able to have a couple of drinks and be able to get home from the bar and not have to worry about it. But I want to know who to sue if I get hit by somebody an autonomous vehicle who's driving like a drunk driver because it glitched out. Right? Should I have to negotiate with a cloud server while people are bleeding out from an accident that was caused from these things? We're going to have rules. I don't know what those rules are going to be. I'm not even saying laws, but I bet you there will be people demanding laws, and we need to talk about what that might look like before we get too deep in the shit, right? If Elon is right, if the steering wheel is going away, then the protections of the individual have to be getting stronger, not weaker. We cannot allow public safety to become a shield that protects billion-dollar corporations from the consequences of their code. So keep your eyes on the data, America, but keep your lawyers on retainer, because the moment that we surrender the wheel as humans, you better make sure you aren't surrendering the right to hold power accountable. I'm Austin Petersen. I'm not afraid of the future. I'm just afraid of a future without a defendant. Agreed? Who's with me there? Glad and thankful to have you here. Click the like button. If today's the first time that you've ever watched the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. We'd be glad and grateful to have you become a regular guest. Looks like we're well on our way to unlocking our bonus content today. We've raised $62 towards the $100 goal. Very nice. I've got I've got the capture of Fort Ticonderoga available for you today. We've been doing a 250th anniversary celebration of the great winning battles of the American Revolution in our mini documentary series lately. Every day I produce these mini documentaries for the show, and if we raise a certain amount of money, they're unlockables. So it makes it a lot more fun for you to drop Rumble rants, which people like Quest Fanning and others have done, or go to forlibertyshop.com, which is Will Run Riot. Head on over there like him today. If you like my beautiful black 250th anniversary Betsy Ross flag embroidered polo, that's available in our 250th anniversary collection. Celebrate the birth of a nation, 250 years. Cheers to 250 years. And thank you to C.O. Day and Drew Van Runkle and so many others of our friends who are joining us here live today. All right, well, so if you listen to the brilliant minds in Silicon Valley, the guys who wear $1,500 hoodies to work, all right, they're going to tell you that prediction markets are the purified essence of truth, right? And they have a good point. Now, they'll say that if you put a price on opinion, that the truth emerges like a revolution. They'll say things like, this is democratized data. Well, recently, the truth emerged, and it actually, in some cases, looks a lot more like a smoke-filled backroom in 1984. So on March 2nd, Bloomberg and Reuters reported that an investigation was opened into a Polymarket user named MAGA My Man. This gentleman placed a massive bet on the United States striking Iran just 71 minutes before the missiles flew on February the 28th. He turned $87,000 into $15,000 in the time that it takes you to grab a latte. So is that wisdom, or is that somebody with a smartphone who knew the bombs were dropping before the pilots did? Now, Bubble Maps, which are the on-chain detectives, they found 6 other wallets funded for the first time the very day before the strike. They netted $1.2 million. So the fog of war is gone. It's been replaced by the profit of war. We're not just discovering the truth. We're now monetizing the manifest. But it's not just the Pentagon that's under the microscope right now on this. The rot has reached the people who really run the world, the YouTubers. So on February 25th, the regulated grown-ups at Kalshi dropped the hammer on a man named Artem Kaptur. His day job was that he was a video editor for Mr. Beast, James Donaldson. Now, Mr. Beast builds houses and gives away islands, but apparently Mr. Kaptur preferred giving himself a pay raise. So Kalshi flagged Kaptur for what they called statistically anomalous success. Translation, he knew who won the challenge before the rest of the world saw the thumbnail. So according to the official disciplinary notice, he traded on material, non-public information. He wagered $4,000 and made a profit of $5,397. For his trouble, Kalshi fined him $20,000 and banned him for 2 years. On March 5th, Decrypt confirmed he was summarily fired. It turns out, even in the land of entertainment, betting on your own cards is a quick way to the unemployment line. So let's talk about the recent capture of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. So this is the smoking gun, the dripping faucet of corruption. In January, Futurism and DL News reported on a suspicious payday. An anonymous trader bet $32,000 on Polymarket that Maduro would be removed from office by the end of the month. The bet was placed just hours before the U.S. raid. The trader walked away with $400,000. Now, Congressman Richie Torres of New York is a Democrat. He occasionally stumbles into a good idea. He has introduced the Public Integrity in Financial Prediction Markets Act. Even Nancy Pelosi is backing it, which makes it kind of sus, but it should at least start a conversation. So allegedly, it would ban federal officials from trading on government policy. We actually need a law to tell government employees they should not bet on the coups that they are currently planning. It's like telling the arsonist he's not allowed to bet on the value of the ashes. So we've reached a sort of level of bureaucratic nerve that would make a casino pit boss from when the mafia ran Las Vegas blush. Now, if you want to see real consequences, there was a case in the Tel Aviv District Court on February 12th. The Times of Israel reported that an IDF reservist and a civilian were officially indicted. The investigation was a joint effort by the Shin Bet and the Israel police that found that this reservist accessed classified data and passed it to a friend to place bets on Polymarket. The user handle, Rico Suave 666. This is true. This is a real story. The only thing that could have made that better if it was like Rico Suave 666 420 69, man. Then you would have had my handle. Blunt Man 420. Bad Baby 66. So this account placed accurate wagers on the timing of Israeli strikes in June of 2025, and they netted a profit of $150,000. Now, their legal names are currently protected because there's a court-issued gag order. This is ongoing, probably because the shame is too much for one family to bear. The IDF called this a severe ethical failure. But you know what I call this? This is the logical conclusion of a world that treats classified intel like a fantasy football league. They're currently in detention. You know, this is a great place to reflect on the difference between predictions and treason. And it's time that we have that discussion. And let's be honest about the infrastructure here. We have to look at who built the stadiums. So according to NPR and Bloomberg, Donald Trump Jr. serves as a strategic advisor to Polymarket. His venture capital firm, 1789 Capital, they've invested tens of millions into the platform. On January 15th, just days before the inauguration, they hosted a fundraiser in Mar-a-Lago, and surprise, shortly after the administration took office, the DOJ, CFTC, they dropped investigations into Polymarket that have been lingering for years. Remember what we talked earlier about the legalization of marijuana? Now, Senator Chris Murphy, he's having a meltdown. He's saying it's insane and illegal. It's insane, but I don't know if it's illegal yet. I mean, it's legal for now. Grab and get everything that you can until they finally bring the hammer down, which will only happen if the American citizenry wise up to what's happening. Most people don't even truly understand what prediction markets are just yet. This is an early phase of this technology. So I do think that a lot of the rules that are going to be written have yet to be written, which of course makes perfect sense because if they're going to be written, then they have yet to be written. The NCAA integrity crisis. So the next frontier, though, and this is where people are going to really start learning about these markets. The next frontier is the campus. Okay, according to Hold Crunch, college football accounts for 32% of the total trading volume on Kalshi. They're betting on the transfer portal. Okay, they're wagering on the career decisions of 19-year-old kids, okay? NCAA President Charlie Baker is begging the CFTC to ban these contracts. Baker argues that these markets expose athletes to harassment and destroy the integrity of amateur sports. What do you think? So imagine being a sophomore quarterback and knowing that 10,000 anonymous traders are betting their mortgage on whether you transfer to Alabama or not, okay? So that instantly turns the university into a trading floor where the only thing that matters is the spread, not the education, not the game, not the spirit. So this represents the commodification of everything down to the last yard. What do you guys think? I know we got some sports bettors out there. So here's kind of the red line, right? Markets were designed to discover value in what we produce. Prediction markets are becoming a vehicle to extract profit from chaos that we create. So when military reservists are indicted, when YouTube editors are fined, and when anonymous war whales are making $500,000 minutes before a bombing, we're no longer talking about the wisdom of the crowds there, right? We're talking about the liquidation of public trust. So ask yourselves, do we want a nation that invests in the future, or just a nation that simply bets on how fast the ship is sinking. Right? It's sardonic. It's cruel. It's the reality of the new global casino. All right, we're going to talk about that and more today on the Wake Up America show. If you're just tuning in live to the Wake Up America show now, click the like button. We'd be glad to have you become a regular guest. If you've been enjoying what you've seen so far, click the follow button as well. We'd be glad to have you be a regular guest of this show 5 days a week. The Wake Up America show streams live 5 days a week, but we're not the only show on this network. There are 5 shows on the For Liberty Network. That's five shows. There's Wake Up America show, Freedom Arcade, Culturama, Liberty Tonight, and Cafecito Libre. I'm telling you, the network is growing nicely. So check out some of the other shows on our network. Help us to unlock the bonus content today. Rorschach says, I'm investing myself to change this course of our country. My time is worth more than any dollar. That may be true, but money will multiply it. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com, Rorschach, and check out my beautiful 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt. Nice and comfy. A beautiful flag polo that everybody will be proud of. Check it out. 250th anniversary. This is the Betsy Ross style. And we've got a bunch of other awesome 250th anniversary merch too. When you make purchases at forlibertyshop.com, that's the number forlibertyshop.com. When you make a purchase there during the live show, it helps to unlock the bonus content. So please do so at forlibertyshop.com. And we're going to check out what's happening in Cuba with my friend Marisa Diaz, host of, I spoke to her yesterday. She's the host of the popular Yul and Mari YouTube account. Hold on, where's the clip? There it is.
No, I don't want to brag, but, you know, they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of this shit I'm doing. No other president. The things I'm doing, nobody else was going to do it. They say it all the time, sir, could you do this? You're the only one can do it. No, I don't want...
It's true. I believe him. He's the only one who could do it. He's the only one that could take down Venezuela and Iran and Cuba, but Iran's still pending. That one's still going on. And Iran and Cuba hasn't happened yet. I think he can do it. What about you? We'll talk about that with Marisa Diaz when we get back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now, the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
No place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Likely to be compared to Theodore Roosevelt, this president survives an assassination attempt like Teddy did, and maybe invades Cuba like Teddy did. We'll find out. Joining us now live, an old friend of mine, Cuban-American content creator and a lover of liberty, an old friend, Marissa Diaz. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing, Austin? It's been a while.
I've loved your videos, Yoel and Mary, where you blew up on TikTok, millions, billions of views, because you brought this man into a supermarket and he sees the abundance of food here in the United States, and he realizes, wow, it could be so much better in Cuba. It could be so much better in Cuba, couldn't it, Mary?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that man is my husband, and I've been documenting his journey now for 5 years. And, you know, Austin, what's crazy is his reaction is not unique at all. This is the reaction of many Cubans, especially in my own family. when they got here, that reaction, that shock. And yeah, it absolutely can be better in Cuba. Why can't it be? Cubans deserve everything that we have here in the United States. We're only 90 miles away. So the culture shouldn't be that extremely different when you think about it in the abstract.
Yeah, and that was the conversation we were having with my guest right before you, was the question of, when is a culture ready for freedom? When is a culture of people ready to self-govern? I speak to a lot of Argentines, and, the Javier Milei thing, it's kind of new. So the concept of self-governance, when I talk to Argentines, they're not used to how to deal with money and capitalism and raising things. What's it like in Cuba?
This has been a question that we've been answering a lot on other podcasts, is the transition, not only politically, but socially, because I don't think people understand that the damage of communism in Cuba is not just the, buildings, it's not the roads, it's not any of that. The biggest damage that communism has done in 67 years in Cuba is the mentality of the people, is the mentality of it's not the same sort of work culture, work hustle. Despite that, despite everything, Cubans are very resourceful, very innovative. Try different ways of getting around different problems. So I have no doubt that the Cuban people are ready for this. If you had spent any time in Cuba, you know that everybody wants change in Cuba. I mean, it feels like almost everybody. So I think they're ready for it. That transition, though, is very tricky. It's going to be very tricky, and I think it's going to need some U.S. support with that.
Oh, yeah, that's the question now. I know all of our libertarian, non-interventionist friends are screaming at you right now, Marissa, because they all
me too.
they all believe in Ron Paul that we should not intervene because it's none of our business, and therefore, to intervene would be a statist, interventionist, warmongering, neoconservative thing to do, Marissa.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Austin, you know that we came from the Ron Paul era, you and I, and I also have an inner philosophical dilemma about this because, it's hard. It's a hard thing. I think U.S. definitely does need to support. Maybe they can support economically with private businesses, private people who are investing in Cuba. What I think, there is some rumors in the Cuban American community that, Cuba should become the 51st state. I think that's a little absurd because I think it would take billions of dollars to renovate Cuba, reconstruct Cuba.
Okay.
And I don't think,
Okay,
yeah,
well, first of all, this is where we're going to depart, because I think Cuba would make a great 51st state. And I think we should absolutely do it.
No, I mean, I don't know if we can convince Austin. I don't know if we can convince Mary and Joe in Iowa, to pay billions of dollars to reconstruct Cuba.
We can if we give them like a timeshare or something on the beach. Everybody wins. The Yankee imperialists have come with their dollars.
Well, I don't know what's more communist, the state giving us all timeshares or using our money for, I don't know. So I don't know if 51st state is I don't even think it's possible. You'd have to annex it by the Congress. So you'd have to be a territory first. But there's certainly work, Trump is signaling a economic agreement, a secret agreement. So I'm thinking in the next week or two, we're going to see what that is.
Yeah, so. I'm really curious, and I hope that we can have a peaceful agreement. I would love to see a peaceful transition of power. People are looking at what is happening in Iran, and they sometimes want to make comparisons. But I don't know that there really is a comparison between Cuba and Iran. It's an apples to oranges situation.
No, totally. I mean, Cuba, first and foremost, Cuba's not a theocracy, so we don't have that. And Cuba is much more westernized than I think Iran is, even though, it's underneath the communist regime, the people are much more westernized than Iran. It would be awful to compare the two.
It would be a big cultural victory, though, to see Cuba fall within the sphere of the United States. I mean, I think the world has always known that was going to happen. But I mean, if you look at Venezuela, one of the reasons why Donald Trump justified the black bagging of Maduro overnight was because China, Russia, Iran, these hostile foreign powers were operating in America's backyards, he institutes the Don Roe Doctrine and says, not in our backyard. If Cuba falls under American influence, it would be a much better thing for the island, wouldn't it?
It would be not only much better for the island, it'd be much better for American national security as well, because in the past 67 years, we have in Cuba, I mean, I've seen with my own personal eyes, a lot of Chinese influence, a lot of Russian influence on the island. North Korea has an embassy in Cuba 90 miles from the United States. So I think it's better for our national security as well. So it's a win-win, I think.
Marissa, I have been arguing that one of the reasons to liberate Cuba it's not about the oil or the power or the money. It's about the women. It's about the beautiful Caribbean princesses. The strongest.
Maybe we would cure American loneliness, male loneliness, with the Cuban takeover.
Yeah, you got to stop sending the passport bros to Malaysia and Thailand. They have to hit the beaches in Cuba. The only thing is that those Cubanitas, they're not going to put up with some weak American males, right? Because there's plenty of good, strong Cuban men, and I know that I know you love one, so it's
yes.
You don't want to trade an American incel for a real Cuban man. But, when you've blown up again on TikTok, you've just had millions of views. People watch like your weight loss journeys, Marissa. We've known each other for a long, long time. So it's like the earliest days of politics. So can I just tell you in front of everybody how proud I am of you and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Austin.
I wish I could say I had some part to play in your success, but I did not. I can't take any credit at all. I can't take any credit at all.
I know we've known each other for 15 years, maybe a little bit over that. And the Ron Paul movement brought us together.
Joe's wedding, I mean, listen, like 15 years ago, though, to bring it back to Cuba, if you and I had been having this conversation, I would not have believed that anywhere near on the horizon Cuba's freedom was at hand. I would not have said, if you had asked me 15 years from now, I probably would have said no. But Trump has done something that, especially in the United States, he's kind of changed the Republican Party to make people believe that we can just do things. And this is kind of why I like Javier Milei, and I'm kind of pissed off at stupid American libertarians because like Javier Milei believes you can just do things. You can just win. You can just kick socialist communist asses. And Donald Trump is kind of the same way. And honestly, Marissa, I kind of admire him for that. Like tell me how you feel about it.
About Donald Trump?
Well, yeah, the Cuba situation where it's at right now.
Yeah.
Are you shocked to hear me say this? Are you shocked to hear me say this?
Yeah, a little. I'm like, where did this philosophy come from? No, but no. I mean, I have a lot of I have a lot of disagreements with Donald Trump, but I also do have agreements with him too. So, if Cuba is crazy, I would have never guessed in 2010-ish when we met that this would play out the way that it is. I mean, even Donald Trump in office would have been kind of laughable in 2010.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's incredible to see. We're going to see where this goes. Like I said, they're talking negotiations. They have a secret deal that's being hammered out right now. I'm not too sure of it. If it doesn't include political prisoners and some sort of reform within the one-party rule, I'm going to be very upset. And I'm going to tell my millions of followers, I'm very upset at Donald Trump because of that. So I think, that it can't just be an economic thing because then we're back to the Obama stage. But yeah, we'll see what happens, Austin. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much, but we'll see.
Speculate wildly. It's podcasting. Marissa, this is so much fun, and you're so well informed, and you're an expert on these things. So, I mean, we've got to have you back, and we've got to talk more about these things. And I got to introduce you to our friend, Maylene Salabarrias, Cuban refugee. She went to Europe. She managed to become an American citizen. She's a libertarian, just like us, and now we're just really trying to build the voice of the revolution. We want to support libertarians that are in Cuba, Marissa,
There are libertarians in Cuba.
There are, yeah.
Yes.
So we want to just make sure that they have the resources that they need to continue the fight, because if there is a new government coming, we want to make sure that people who believe what we believe in capitalism and freedom and in the individual, we want to make sure that those people have a voice. So I don't know about you, but I plan on doing it, being a part of that.
Me too.
Good.
I'm right there with you.
Good. So, I mean, do you tell me what you are hearing from like people that you know in the community? What is the mood? Is it overall pretty optimistic? Because I mean, you know, Venezuela sort of changed the calculus. I'm sure there's a lot of people feeling very desperate in Cuba right now. There's a lot of people like lights going off. You know, we've seen power outages in the past, but what are you hearing from the Cuban American community, or maybe directly from Cubans if you speak to any?
Yeah, no, I mean, my whole entire life is surrounded by Cubans. I think people are very optimistic. I know my husband is kind of being reserved because he doesn't want to keep bringing his hopes up.
Yeah.
But a Cuban American community is very, very optimistic right now. They think something is going to happen. This past weekend, we saw several protests across the island. And protests that are not just saying, you know, we need water or we need electricity. They're saying that we need freedom on these protests that have been happening in the past couple of days. So we're very, very optimistic. I think it's just going to take whatever this negotiation with Trump to kind of play out and see how that lands up. But yeah, the Cuban people are very optimistic. And like I said, Austin, if you go to Cuba, if you spend any time in Cuba, you will know that practically everyone under the age of 45, I would say, is for big changes in Cuba. They would like to see some changes.
Love to see it too. If Cuba becomes the 51st state, will it vote Republican?
I don't know. You'd have to teach the Cuban people what Republican and Democrat is, which to me is even harder to explain, because I feel like, you know, you're probably in agreement with me. They're just the same thing.
Well, maybe, but you know, I'm much more Republican than I used to be, honestly, Marissa.
Yeah. Have you switched up a little bit?
Yeah. I just stopped. I don't think that we should have to apologize for American greatness. I'm sick of like this kind of like defeatist attitude that we get from the left and the communists of like, well, there's this concept of civilizational decline in the West, and it's a lack of confidence. And I think America should be confident. It's not that we're perfect, but I don't think the United States is the great Satan or the great bad. I don't agree with a lot of libertarian Americans who think the United States is the greatest terror organization. I save that for like the true enemies of liberty. How do you feel?
No, I would totally be there I'm totally there with you. You know, sometimes people like Dave Smith really surprise me. You know, the libertarians that kind of do the horseshoe theory where we're back to, you know, you're aligning with the left. And I think, I mean, we shouldn't apologize for it. We created the best civilization in the human civilization. We shouldn't apologize for it. We're more free, we're more prosperous than ever before in human history. And why should we say sorry to that? Why should we, you know, apologize for that? So I'm right there with you, Austin. You know, the current libertarian movement sometimes is just,
that's why
I can't even, and I'm a little embarrassed to say I'm a libertarian sometimes.
Me too. Yes.
Yes.
We are going to talk. Marissa, I'm glad we reconnected. I'm glad that we're friends because I want to talk to you about this kind of stuff more, because I definitely have had a change in my thinking on things. Right.
I have as well.
I definitely think that there is an importance of certain things that are, maybe liberty is supposed to provide for civilization to thrive, but like other civilizational factors and markers are important for us to live in a free society, and not everybody in the world respects that. And we have to recognize what the reality of that. So, I mean, Cubans are realizing that now. I hope that we can find a way to enculturate Cuba to have a culture of liberty, because without the culture of liberty, I think we'll lose. And this is why I get down on my knees and I thank God every day for Javier Milei, because Javier Milei is not a libertarian in the same way that American libertarians are. He is much more pragmatic. He has his ideals, but you know what his famous quote is? And I agree with him 100%. You must never give shit leftards an inch. And American libertarians give shit leftards too many inches.
That is very true. No, Javier Milei, I mean, I cried when he became president.
Yeah.
I couldn't even believe it. So
It
for
was-
us libertarians, a libertarian president was historic.
Yeah, it was. Yes, he beat me because I think he beat me to it. But Marissa, hey, I want to give you a chance right now to share with our audience anything that you think we might have missed in this Cuba discussion, things that and also please plug your awesome YouTube channel. I have it pulled up. I'm going to play a clip as soon as you go. But
Sure.
do your plugs.
I think Cubans are in the bottom of their heart and souls, they desire to be American. They are very close to Americans. It's just the two governments that are at war with each other, but the Cuban people absolutely love Americans. So I can't wait to see what's happening in the future. And you guys can follow us. We are Yoel and Mari on YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else. So, and Twitter as well, or X.
Marissa, you rock. You rocker. You look great. You sound great. I'm glad you're doing
you,
well.
man.
Yeah, I hope I get to see you again sometime soon. Take care.
We will see each other soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. Just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here, and it's absolutely unapologetic. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approve. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
私たちはニューヨークで生まれ育ちました。そしている皆さん、ここにいる皆さんにはニューヨークに残ってほしいのです。私はアイセスに忠誠を誓う。アラフアクバル。
これらの卑劣な行為の原因は明らかです。白人至上主義です。
Real life reflects art, or is art reflecting real life? Which is where's the beginning? It's a chicken or egg scenario. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network, baby. We're kicking ass. We got 5 shows on this Liberty Network. I have scrimped and I have saved and I have worked and I have slaved and I have built for you a Liberty Network that will be, oh, I'm afraid it will be too late by the time your friends arrive. We will be all powerful. I am the great and powerful Oz. Real Hunter Human. What's happening, man? Quest Fanning, CO Day. Mighty Megatron. You are a very mighty Megatron. How's it going? Do you guys want to see the capture of Fort Ticonderoga in a Lego style? I know you do. I like the Isle of Manhattan. Unlock the bonus content, guys. Head to 4libertyshop.com. Grab one of these beautiful 250th anniversary embroidered polos. Celebrate the United States. Celebrate liberty at 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. To some shopping. Grab a box of our delicious Founding Flavors coffee. And if we raise $100, we are going to unlock that bonus content. I know you're going to love it. So we're going to start this segment here with the story, this footage that you saw there of that man jumping off the back of a white man who had just shouted about, we want everybody here in New York to stay in New York. That footage that was then converted into an anime. Yes, this is the footage that the mainstream media is not going to be playing.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
Right there. So the camera captures Emir Balat. So he isn't just protesting. He is reaching back and hurling a glass jar wrapped in black tape straight over his head into a crowd. As the jar leaves his hand, you hear the shout, Allahu Akbar. That jar wasn't a smoke bomb. It was packed with TATP, tricetone triperoxide, what terrorists will call the mother of Satan. TATP is a highly volatile, non-nitrogenous explosive made from household acetone and hydrogen peroxide. It's so unstable that a fraction of the static electricity from your clothing can trigger a detonation. It doesn't just burn, it creates an entropic blast wave designed to tear through steel and bone. Now, compare that video to the nonsense produced by Walter Masterson. So while Walter spends his entire life filming clout-chasing gotcha videos, acting like a guy with the wrong bumper sticker is an existential threat to the Republic, actual ISIS operatives were prepping shrapnel jars in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Walter, I've got a question for you for your next upload. We've reached out to you. We've invited you on the show. Where's the comedy bit about the jar filled with nuts and bolts? So you're mocking the people who want a border, while the people who cross it are mixing Mother of Satan in their basements and using you as a launching pad for their attack on Western civilization, literally and metaphorically. Your entire brand is a testimony to liberal narcissism, polishing the brass of the Titanic while the iceberg is literally blowing up on the Upper East Side. You're lucky that didn't go off next to your head, idiot. And what is the response from the god of government at City Hall? Mayor Zoran Mamdani stood at a podium, talked about defending the sacred right to peaceful protest. Peaceful? Mayor, your own security footage shows a bomb flying through the air. He spent more time condemning the bigotry of the people protesting the Islamification of New York than he did condemning the people trying to turn East End Avenue into a graveyard. This is the ultimate leftist betrayal. They would rather see you dead than be called intolerant. They treat ISIS supporters like misunderstood youth, while they treat tax-paying citizens like us like domestic terrorists. The mayor's own police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, confirmed that they've been on a heightened state of alert since the hostilities began with Iran. Yet they still let these radicals roam free until the fuses were lit. This is a dereliction of duty that borders on criminal. Now let's get to the facts in this story. As of yesterday, Emir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi have been officially charged in Manhattan federal court with a conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction and attempt to provide material support to ISIS. These are not just radicalized teenagers. They are enemy combatants operating on American soil. The criminal complaint reveals that Balat, an 18-year-old from Langhorne, Pennsylvania, has pledged allegiance to the Islamic State after traveling to Istanbul twice in the last 2 years. The FBI confirms the devices recovered were functional improvised explosive devices reinforced with nuts and bolts for maximum fragmentation. Balat admitted to investigators his goal was an attack even bigger than the Boston Marathon bombing. He deployed the first device against a police line and was caught handing off a second device to Kayumi before he was tackled. This is an act of terrorism directed at the heart of New York City, coordinated by two men who lived less than an hour away. The Bucks County Pipeline. So these two ISIS-inspired traitors drove up from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. They crossed the state lines with weapons of mass destruction while the media was busy lecturing you about the threat of MAGA extremism. According to the complaint, Ibrahim Kayumi, whose mother reported him missing just 2 hours before the attack, blurted out ISIS to officers the moment that he was handcuffed. So we're importing the very ideologies that want to erase us and murder us. The very ideologies that want to have you and I wiped off the map. So, and then people react shocked when they start mixing volatile chemicals in the suburbs. We have a pipeline of radicalism flowing from our neighborhoods into our city centers because we have abandoned the requirement of integration. We've traded American national security for the warm, fuzzy feelings of being progressive, and now the progress is exploding in our faces. Let's be clear about who these people are. Emir Balat wasn't some lone wolf in a cave. He was a senior in high school. He was a part of the system. He was a product of the very government god schools that told him his own background was a victimhood status to be weaponized. So while our kids are being taught to deconstruct their own history, the radicals are constructing bombs. The criminal complaint notes that Balat and Kayumi used encrypted messaging to coordinate with overseas recruiters. And where was the surveillance? Well, it was too busy looking at your bank account. Did you get paid over $600 online? Your social media posts, right? They wanted to see what you were posting online, but two guys with a trunk full of mother and Satan, no problem. The state isn't interested in protecting you. They're far more interested in managing you than managing your national security. I would rather be a victim. The government would rather you be a victim of a peaceful explosion than with an opinion that they don't like. Look what's happening in the UA. This is an attack on the West. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America Show, good morning. I'm Austin Petersen. Click that like button if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America Show. I love seeing, look at this, all of our friends going over to forlibertyshop.com. Somebody who won the great grift off Liberty Loot Live got the polo. Yeah, Andrew. We're like Eskimo brothers now. No, is that what that means? Wake up, America. The communists want you to believe that the state is your only protector. The state couldn't keep a 19-year-old from throwing a bomb at the mayor's front door. The left wants you disarmed. The red-green alliance of leftists and Marxists working together want you disarmed. They want your kids indoctrinated. The left wants to replace the idea of God with government, and the Islamists want to replace our secular government with a theocracy. This is the red-green alliance. We're calling it out, and we're fighting it right here on the front lines. These are the enemies of liberty. So let's call them out. The bomb that went off on Saturday blew the mask off of this lie. Emir, Balat, and Ibrahim Kayumi are the logical final products of the liberal project. When you tell a generation that all cultures are equal, you end up with the mother of Satan bombs in the crosswalk. It's time to stop defending the right to be destroyed. It's time to fight back against those who want to see us go into a managed decline. It's time to reassert who we are. It's time for a civilizational confidence. It's time for us to build a nation based on family, based on the absolute rejection of the bureaucracy as our master. It's time to fight against those who want to place God in government. It's not. The Islamists and the Marxists want to make government our God. The Islamists want to make it Allah. And of course, the Marxists want to make it just the government. It's communist atheists. Communist atheist shitbags. Is that going too far? Can I call them shitbags? Communist atheist shitbags. The Associated Press did an article that I happen to love. This is a sweet story. This is about how young people have been turning to quote unquote grandma hobbies to kind of escape the digital prison of their smartphones. And I love hearing it. I love it. This is the story that I love. So we're talking about 20-somethings who are completely obsessed with needlepoint, knitting, gardening, and bird watching. And you know why? It's because they are doom scrolling themselves into these mental health crises, and they finally realized that a glossy screen is no substitute for the physical world. We've got a great story coming up for you here in just a moment. Before we do, just want to say thank you to people like Skull Spotter hanging out with us live in the show. Liberty Tonight show's here with us. Mosbor donated Fight, Fight, Fight. Hell yes. Join the Libertarian Nationalist movement. Read the manifesto at forlibertyshop.com while you're doing our shopping. It's nice to see 120 people joining us live over here on Rumble. Those are good numbers, and we're deeply grateful to have you here. Please click the follow button. When you click the follow button, you'll get a notification whenever we go live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the show schedule. We'll be glad and grateful to have you come back and join us here again 5 days a week. Don't forget the like button too. Helps to support the show. And again, we'd be glad to have you be a regular guest hanging out with us.
The things I'm doing, nobody else was going to do it. They say it all the time. Sir, could you do this? You're the only one can do it. No, I don't want to brag, but you know, they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of this shit I'm doing. No other president.
He's right.
The things I'm doing, nobody else was going to do it.
Nobody else is going to do it. He's right. He's right. When you're right, you're right. Andy Alferman says, my 20-year-old daughter has taken up knitting in the last year. Well, we're going to talk about knitting. Can you believe that? A show with all these like crazy fancy graphics. I got a neon pineapple on the wall, and a book for karate, and a Winston Churchill duck, and I'm going to talk about knitting. I have a murdered Nazi wolf up there. I don't know if you can tell what that poster is, but we did it. So thanks, guys, so much for the donations. I'm very grateful. So we're going to talk about knitting. Yes, people are kind of fed up with the digital stuff, and you see it. In a lot of the streaming shows and things, numbers are kind of down for across the board in the last year. more and more people are trading their spreadsheets for needlepoint businesses, right? So people are finding therapy and doing something with their hands. And I think, I don't know if there's any science to it, but I'm going to guess that there probably is. Okay. So this is what I would say. I would describe this as a sort of a civilizational recoil from the virtual void. We stared into the abyss of infinite information. And I think for many of us, the abyss has stared back, and it's time for us to step back. Now, we will always watch the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network every time we are live. Of course. That's different. I'm different. But this is not just a fad that's happening right now. Psychologists are calling this a wise use of time. Reduces stress, provide a sense of accomplishment that an algorithm can never provide. I spent my weekend doing the same thing, going outside, touching grass. Stephanie and I, we took Hazel to the park Sunday morning, right before the Catholic Church lets out, around noon across the street, and we're listening to the bells ringing as we're walking, and my beautiful little redheaded child is just clump, 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 having the time of her life, and the wind is blowing gently, and the sun is streaming through. Just one of those perfect mornings. And we spent hours with our muck boots on, building a new fence in the backyard for our dogs so that we can have a nice clean space for our daughter. There's a moral clarity that comes from driving a pin into the dirt that a Twitter debate just can't touch. So let's talk about the architecture of the body. We're talking about our health here. We're talking about, because you're talking about what? You're talking about some girl you want to, but you cannot build a fortress on a foundation of trash. At the end of last year, I had to face a brutal truth about my own journey. I was hitting the weights, okay? I was on the mat doing karate. I'm working out 3 times a week, lifting heavy weights. Ugh. Stephanie and I last year, we went to the YMCA. We went all year, very rarely skipped. I'm getting stronger and stronger. My muscles are getting bigger, and I'm just getting fatter and fatter and heavier and heavier. Right? I'm doing the physical work, but I wasn't eating correctly. So I was operating kind of like a high-performance engine burning low-grade kerosene, right? Recent data from the Journal of the American Medical Association reveals a dangerous trend called the fat but fit paradox. So you can have the muscle, you can have the strength, but if your nutrition is disastrous, then your metabolic health will always stay in the gutter. So I was lifting, I was striking, kicking, jumping, cardio, but I wasn't fueling properly. But at the end of last year, when I changed my diet, once I matched the healthy eating with the exercise, the game changed overnight. And it wasn't really so much about the scale. I really love seeing the dropping in numbers on the scale, right? But it was more about the feeling that you get from having control over yourself, being able to take control. How often have you been eating something and you just lose control? You grab a bag of chips, or you get a big plate of French fries or something, and you just lose control. And like halfway through, you're full, but it just tastes so good, and you just keep eating and eating. Or you get like an ice cream. Maybe you go and you grab the whole thing. You don't make like a bowl of ice cream. You just grab the box and you just start spooning it into your mouth and going crazy on that ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Like we've all been there. You just can't stop. It's a loss of control. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not a control freak, but I like control. I like to have control over things. So I like to have control over what's going to happen in my life. I like to have control over how I feel. Well, to a certain extent, you have control over how you feel. A lot of this happens with your diet, with your habits, and with your exercise, right? So the real miracle, though, has happened. It's happened in my brain, right? Nutritional psychiatry. This is a new science. It's kind of the new frontier of health. And the research, I think, is at least undeniable to a certain extent. Is the science settled? No. But 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So if you are eating slop, you're manufacturing depression. So by aligning your protein intake with weightlifting like I've been doing, and then you cut out some of these inflammatory carbohydrates, my mood didn't just improve, it stabilized. So you have less brain fog. There's and the mid-afternoon crashes. I can't tell you how many times I needed to felt like I needed to take a nap, because when you don't get a healthy balance of healthy fats, proteins, carbs, right, your macros, you crash. You feel like, isn't it like 2 p.m.? Most people, you start to go, oh, I'm dead. I really need to take a nap. Well, if you eat healthy and you at a good interval, then you stay full longer and you feel better. You don't feel like that need. You have more energy. We're talking about biophilia, so the innate human need to connect with reality. University of Exeter studies show that just 2 hours a week in nature is the breaking point for a major boost in well-being. So if you can spend at just 2 hours a week in nature, you can get a major boost in your mental health. So when you combine touching grass with clean fuel, you become the master of your own emotional state, right? You're instead of a slave to the next spike in insulin or whatever emotional state, whatever incident will occur that will affect your emotional state, you'll be able to weather that better, at least from a mental health perspective. Allegedly. This is just from what I am finding out in my research about diet and exercise and health and energy. You get really interested in those things when you hit midlife. I just turned 45, right? And I want to think about, how do I want to feel in the last, I'm on the back nine. I think I have less days to live than I've already lived. I think from at 45, when you're 40, you have just like they've certain amount of days on average. So the Associated Press highlights Anvil Anna, a 27-year-old blacksmith with a 1-year wait list for her hand-forged spurs. So people are realizing factory-made, mass-produced garbage wears out, right? They want longevity and they want the craft. So people, they love the truth that is forged in reality. Pottery, origami, building a fence for your dogs like we did, right? These analog hobbies are about surviving a hyper-digitalized world. They provide a Zen state, a sort of bubble of reality where you and your friends can enjoy a game of mahjong without, interference of the smart TV that's watching and listening to you while you do it, right? Getting out into the real world, get eating healthy food and exercising, pairing excellent good habits together, stringing them together. And I'm not saying you have to do them all at once. And I'm not perfect and I still make mistakes. And I think yesterday we made some cookies and I ate some cookies. So I ate some cookie. We made cookies from scratch and I ate some of them. All right. A significant amount of cookies. So nobody's perfect. But overall, when you start to string good habits together and you add them one at a time and they snowball, when these good habits, again, there's things like knitting, paper crafter, St. Selma. Can I tell you something about paper crafting? So this is a terrible, poor imitation of paper crafting. I don't know if I can see. Let's see if I can pull it up for you on camera 3 over there, right there. There we go. Like to see that. So this has kind of been become one of my new favorite art styles. And obviously, I'm not a real paper crafter, so I use AI. But I really love this beautiful paper craft style. It reminds me of when we used to do dioramas in school. Does everybody remember dioramas? Did you make a diorama when you were in elementary school? I loved dioramas because I would come up with stories for the dioramas. And you would do some of the teachers and some of the girls, of course, would do these beautiful paper craft dioramas of little scenes. And I was never that good from a perspective of putting together all of the bits of colored paper. But I admired the young ladies and our teachers who would teach those things. Okay. All right. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, you guys have unlocked the bonus content. You've earned it. Enjoy it. The capture of Fort Ticonderoga in a Lego style.
Dawn of May 1775, Barely 3 weeks after the first musket shots cracked at Lexington and Concord on April 19th, the winds of open rebellion stirred along the northern frontier of the American colonies. King George III's redcoats still held Boston in a tightening siege, but the Patriot forces outside the city were desperate for heavy artillery, cannons, mortars, and howitzers that could blast the British from their entrenchments. The key to that arsenal lay 300 miles north on the western shore of Lake Champlain, the massive stone fortress of Fort Ticonderoga, a brooding relic of the French and Indian War, built by French engineers in 1755 and captured by the British in 1759. Its thick limestone walls, now cracked and moss-covered after 16 years of neglect, overlooked the narrow waterway that linked Canada to the Hudson River Valley. Inside lay more than 80 iron and brass cannons, some still bearing the fleur-de-lis of defeated France. Leading the daring raid was Ethan Allen, the 6'4" giant from the New Hampshire Grants, now called Vermont, commander of the Green Mountain Boys. These rugged frontier militiamen wore fringed buckskin hunting shirts dyed with walnut bark, leather breeches tucked into moccasins or heavy boots, wide-brimmed felt hats or coonskin caps, and carried long Pennsylvania flintlock rifles accurate at 200 yards, powder horns slung across their chests, and tomahawks tucked in their belts. With Allen rode Benedict Arnold, a sharp-eyed 34-year-old Connecticut merchant and militia captain freshly commissioned by the Massachusetts Committee of Safety. Arnold wore the new blue coat of a Continental officer, gold epaulets glinting on his shoulders, a tricorn hat pinned with a cockade, and a sword at his side. The two men clashed immediately over command, but their combined force, 83 Green Mountain Boys plus Arnold's small detachment, set out under cover of darkness on the night of May 9th. They gathered at Hand's Cove on the eastern shore of Lake Champlain. Under a sliver moon, 183 men crowded into 2 battered bateaux and several smaller rowboats, flat-bottomed wooden craft used by lake traders. The water was cold and black as they rowed silently across the mile-wide lake. The only sounds the soft dip of oars and the distant call of a loon. By 3 o'clock in the morning, they reached the western shore beneath the fort's southern wall. Sentries had been posted, but the British garrison, only 48 regular soldiers of the 26th Regiment of Foot under Captain William Delaplace, had grown lazy in their isolated post. Most slept soundly in their barracks, red coats folded neatly, powdered wigs hung on pegs, Brown Bess muskets stacked in racks. Allen wasted no time. He formed his men into a loose column and led them up the steep, unguarded slope in the gray pre-dawn light. At the main gate, a lone sentry snapped awake and raised his musket, but a Green Mountain Boy clubbed him down with a rifle butt before he could fire. The Patriots poured through the sally port and into the fort's central parade ground, just as the first pink streaks of sunrise touched the eastern mountains. Ethan Allen bounded up the stairs to the officers' quarters, his sword drawn, and hammered on Captain Delaplace's door with the flat of his blade. "Come out of there, you damned old rat!" he roared. The sleepy British captain stumbled out in his nightshirt, nightcap askew. Allen towered over him, eyes blazing. "In the name of the great Jehovah and the Continental Congress," he thundered, "I demand the immediate surrender of this fort." Delaplace blinked in disbelief. "By whose authority?" he stammered. "By that of the Continental Congress," Allen repeated, and the Green Mountain Boys raised a cheer that echoed off the stone walls. Within minutes, the entire garrison was roused at bayonet point. Not a single shot had been fired. The Americans had taken one of the most strategic strongholds in North America without losing a man. By sunrise, the fort was theirs. The Patriots swarmed over the ramparts, lowering the Union Jack and raising the pine tree flag of New England liberty. They discovered a treasure trove, 83 heavy cannon, mortars, howitzers, and thousands of rounds of ammunition, some still stamped with the royal cipher of King George. Later that same day, they captured the smaller Fort Crown Point 10 miles north with equal ease. The news raced south like wildfire. Within weeks, Colonel Henry Knox would begin the heroic winter trek, hauling those very cannon 300 miles across frozen rivers and snow-covered mountains to the heights above Boston. On March 17, 1776, the British would evacuate the city rather than face that iron storm. The capture of Fort Ticonderoga was more than a bold raid. It was the first offensive victory of the American Revolution. In the spring of 1775, when the colonies were still fighting for their rights as Englishmen and independence had not yet even been dreamed of in Philadelphia, a handful of buckskin-clad frontiersmen and one ambitious Connecticut captain had struck the first blow that would one day arm an entire army. From the crumbling walls of that old French fortress on Lake Champlain, the road to Boston, and ultimately to Yorktown, had begun.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. Thank you very much for sticking around, and I hope you enjoyed the bonus content. Thank you for unlocking it. Sometimes it does get a little silly. We're glad and grateful to have you here. Today, we're diving a little bit deeper into the biology of freedom. I told you about touching grass, but let's look at some of the hard science behind touching grass. There was a landmark 2019 study that was published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology that sort of confirmed what the ancients already knew. Researchers found 20 minutes of connecting with nature significantly lowers your level of cortisol. That is the stress hormone that is currently eating the American middle class alive. But here's the kicker. You don't need to be in the middle of the Amazon. You don't have to spend days backpacking in Bolivia. Just sitting in the park or building a fence in your backyard triggers the biophilia effect. Your prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain responsible for cognitive function and executive decision making, goes into a state of recovery. So when you are glued to your screen, you are in a perpetual state of directed attention fatigue. By getting outside, you switch to involuntary attention, allowing your brain's circuit breakers to reset. This isn't guru nonsense. I hate that gobbledygook. This is neurobiology. So if you want to think clearly, every once in a while, you have to disconnect from the grid and reconnect with the dirt. The neuroplasticity of the grandma hobbies. Okay, so let's go back to that AP report on grandma hobbies. Why are 20-somethings suddenly obsessed with needlepoint and blacksmithing? Well, it's because their brains are starving for proprioceptive input. Research from the University of Hamburg shows that complex motor tasks like knitting or forging metal stimulate white matter in the brain and improve neuroplasticity. So when you engage in these analog tasks, you enter what psychologists Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called the flow state. He's got a name like that. You got to trust him. You enter what this psychologist will call him Mihaly, called the flow state. Your heart rate drops, your brain waves shift from beta to alpha, and your anxiety evaporates. Now, these hobbies are not just cute. They're also a defense mechanism against the fragmented attention span that is created by algorithms. So we're witnessing a generational rebellion against the virtual void. Young people are realizing that a 1-year wait list for hand-forged spurs is worth more than 1 million likes on a screen. They want longevity, they want substance, and they want the sort of Zen state that really can only come from the material world, and bless them for it. So I told you a little bit about my journey at the end of last year, and here's the hard data behind the turnaround that I've been engaging in months for my health. Eating better, adding the diet, right? I was lifting heavy, doing karate, but I was not seeing the mood boost that I expected. Well, why? Is because I was metabolically rigid. According to a recent breaking research from the Mayo Clinic, the key to energy sovereignty is metabolic flexibility. So this is the body's ability to efficiently switch between burning glucose and burning stored body fat. So if you're constantly spiking your insulin with carbs, you're locking the door to your own energy reserves. So I flipped the switch, and your body will adapt. Right? Depression will fade, and you'll discover a level of natural energy that people will want you to preserve. Oh, I have something special for you. Hang out right there. Don't go away. We'll be right back. I've got something for you. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Glad and thankful to have you here. Please click the like button if you haven't already. If today's your first time watching, click the follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest on the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network. I have been campaigning for liberty for 20 years now. I have fought the good fight. I've won some fights. I've lost some fights. But the one thing that I have realized, the big, long lesson, is if you want to win, you got to play the long game. What does that mean? That means that once you win the election for your side, celebrate, party, have a good time, enjoy however you like. This is still a free country after all. But if you want to stay a free country, then you have to build infrastructure that can build out infrastructure for the future. We need a self-sustaining, self-perpetuating campaign. The left, the communists, the socialists, the statists, the authoritarians, they are always constantly plotting to take our rights away. So if we aren't constantly plotting and fighting to keep our rights, we will lose. Joining us now, one of the vanguards of that fight, Brandon Pritchard, joining us live on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Brandon.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Austin. Really appreciate it.
Brandon, you're about to launch one of the biggest campaigns. It's a historic campaign to take back our rights. Tell us all about it.
Of course. So I am the executive director and founder of Citizens Alliance of North Dakota. We believe that this will be the largest door-knocking operation in North Dakota history. Austin, you're the first to hear it on your show. We at Citizens Alliance plan on knocking 100,000 doors in the state of North Dakota. This will, as I said, be the largest door-knocking operation in state history. And we plan on supporting conservative, liberty-minded candidates who want to fight for rights, fight for freedom, fight for the Constitution. We believe that door knocking, that getting out there and actually talking with the people who are going to be casting ballots on June 9th in North Dakota and then in November of 2026, that's the way that we move the needle, and that's the way that we get good folks in office who don't just talk the talk but walk the walk, Austin. And so this is going to be really exciting. There's been massive campaigns in North Dakota's history, but we plan on breaking all of those records.
Brandon, I don't care how unsexy the idea of door knocking sounds to my audience, and I'll tell you why. Because if there is one thing that I've learned, it's that the mundane march through the institutions that the left did must be marched back slowly, one door at a time. If we want to reclaim America, it's not going to be because we made $1 million Elon bucks on Twitter or even what this discussion on podcast is going to be. If we want to take this country back for liberty, you're going to take it back one door at a time. That is, like, in honesty, that's the most realistic way it's going to happen, if it's going to happen at all, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, 100%. I've knocked a lot of doors in my days. I was a former state representative myself. You're not going to win these elections without putting in the groundwork. And, it's interesting, Austin, just at Citizens Alliance, but also in the things that I've done in the past with activism. You host big events and you get hundreds of people to show up, and it's big, exciting, and you get high momentum. Then you say at that same event, hey, we're doing a door knocking operation. I'd love for you guys to show up, and maybe 5 people show up.
Yep.
And it's so frustrating because it's like the stuff that actually moves the needle in elections, nobody wants to do. But it's the stuff
I know,
that
Brandon,
actually gets people out.
Yes, like you and I, we're in the business of this, right? So for me, like we have to run it as an operation because, we're ideologues, we have deeply held beliefs, but we understand that there's a machinery here to this. And if we don't build a machine, I sit back and I watch these people, and some of these people, Brandon, they talk such a big game about patriotism. Man, they said if George Washington had been calling for volunteers, they'd be the first ones at the front line with their muskets in 1776, et cetera, et cetera. But you ask them to knock on their neighbors' doors, and how much does it pay?
you know.
right.
It's like,
and
hey,
how can I get out of this quicker, right? How can I move on?
Yeah, right. Sacrifice. You know, very few people, Brandon, really do want to sacrifice. It's very hard to get people to do it. But you know what? Thankfully, we have people like yourself in Citizens Alliance. I am trying to get as many people as I can connected with actual jobs. What I used to do for free, Brandon, for like Ron Paul and Bob Barr and all these other guys, what I used to do for them for free, you could get paid for now. So it's come a long way. I used to volunteer.
Right. No, I did too. I mean, and when I did my first campaign, obviously that was 100% on my on my own doing. But you know, I used to knock doors for folks that maybe some of the people at home, and me included, might not like as much anymore. But I mean, I knocked a lot of doors for free, just wanting to push conservative policies over the finish line. And it's so frustrating when people now are like, "Hey, can I get paid $30 an hour?" And I'm like, "Come on, man! Like we're just trying to do the right thing."
It is hard. It is. It's like it's funny too, because you know what I've realized sometimes, and this isn't always the case, but a lot of times the people who blab the hardest about how much they love, the ones who talk the most are the ones who do the least. But the people who are like, who show up, who are like, yep, let's do it. They're right there. They get the most done, right? They just shut up and train. They shut up, knock that door, hit it. You know, that's when you got a serious patriot. You know.
100%. No, it's that you're exactly right. And I will say, I mean, if anybody in your audience, we take folks from all over the country. If anybody is interested in being part of history, largest door knocking operation with 100,000 doors in North Dakota, feel free to reach out to us. And I'm sure I'll tell you this later in the show too, Austin, but CAND.WIN, feel free to apply and we'd love to have you on our team.
Door knocking operations, the perpetual campaign, you know, most people, they show up to vote once every 4 years if they show up to vote at all. But getting those people, with the Republicans right now, we face a real difficult challenge because if Trump is not on the ballot, then we lose a certain amount of our voters. We have what's called low propensity voters. Isn't that the case, Brandon? What are we doing to change that? And is this a psychology problem? Is this an activist problem? You know, a little bit of both.
Yeah, no, that's a great question and something that I've certainly been pondering in our state. It's about pockets of finding those low propensity voters and getting them out to vote. So we target specific legislative districts in our state. We identify who those low propensity voters are that might be, have a high affinity for President Trump or for liberty issues or, whatever it is. And then we send door knockers to those into those doors. And it's very rare. I mean, if you see somebody with a 0 to 4 or 1 out of 4 propensity in most states around the country, it makes zero sense to be spending time on them. But in a state like North Dakota, where there's under 20,000 people in a legislative district, it does make sense for our door knockers and the candidates as well to be going and talking to those people who have that high political purity affinity, but don't have a high voting affinity. And I mean, you turn out 300 of those people, 200 of those people, and that's the difference in the election. It's not a lot. I mean, even in a landslide election in our state, it's still only 500, 600, 700 votes in a lot of these races. So you change the calculus by a couple hundred votes of people that agree with us but don't show up. That can make all the difference, and that's what we're investing in as well.
The bad guys, they always show up. The bad guys have got all the money and they got all the power and they always show up. And what I have been saying for years is that if you want to see your ideas win, if you want to stop bitching and stop complaining and start seeing some stuff actually change, you got to show up. That's what it is. Sometimes I've seen tax increases fail by like the smallest of margins. And it's like if we had just shown up, you just had to get your guys to show up. Maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 more guys and gals had shown up, then we would have won. We would have protected ourselves, but you got to show up. So Brandon, tell us about this historic campaign one more time, and what can people do if they want to actually show up and help you guys out?
Of course, I love doubling down on the subject. North Dakota has been known as a state where we've had a lot of activism. I mean, we had the nonpartisan league founded in our state. A bunch of farmers rose up against special interests out of state, and we had nonpartisan leaguers driving, using the old Model T Ford, driving door to door. And I kind of look at it in the same vein as what we're doing. I mean, we are recruiting people that are the electorate to get behind people who are not cronyists, not corporatists, but actually everyday people who care about liberty, care about our Constitution and our God-given rights. And we're getting those people to vote for liberty candidates. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. 100,000 doors in North Dakota is our goal. We're already on our way. We have 10 people in state right now hammering away at doors, plus a number of great volunteers that are locals. And so we're already certainly on that way, Austin. If you want to join this large operation, probably largest operation in North Dakota history to our knowledge, Citizens Alliance of North Dakota is our organization. My name is Brand Pritchett. I'm the executive director. CAND.WIN. I'll repeat that. CAND.WIN is our website. You should be able to reach out to us there, and we'd love to get you situated in the beautiful state of North Dakota. It's just warming up here in North Dakota, Austin. It'll be nice here to knock doors. My door knockers have been slipping around, but I think it's starting to get
glad to hear.
nicer.
But hey, thanks for doing what's necessary. Thanks for keeping the campaign alive. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Austin.
The revolution continues. All right, guys, we're going to bring it all together now. Okay. This week, I've got a little challenge for you. I want you to step outside. I want you to take a deep breath of clean, fresh, pure freedom. Take a breath. Take your kid to the park. Eat clean. Lift heavy. Right? Be a healthy, strong, clear-headed person, because that is how we're going to maintain our liberties, right? If you are clear-headed, if you're strong, then you're impossible to govern. Even the insurance companies lose power over you when you don't have to go to the doctors. Recent studies from the Health and Retirement Study show that people with a sense of purpose and tangible hobbies have lower levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines. So build a shield against the modern world. The grandma hobby moment. Touching grass, metabolic revolution. It's all one thing. It's the return of the builder. So, don't consume virtual garbage, consume virtual goldness, like the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. And then the rest of your time, try and spend a little time outside. Reclaim your agency. Wake up, America. It's time for us to get healthy, get clean, and get free. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show and the 4 Liberty Network.
Crisp spring dawn of May 1775, barely 3 weeks after the first musket shots cracked at Lexington and Concord on April 19th, the winds of open rebellion stirred along the northern frontier of the American colonies. King George III's redcoats still held Boston in a tightening siege, but the Patriot forces outside the city were desperate for heavy artillery, cannons, mortars, and howitzers that could blast the British from their entrenchments. The key to that arsenal lay 300 miles north on the western shore of Lake Champlain, the massive stone fortress of Fort Ticonderoga, a brooding relic of the French and Indian War, built by French engineers in 1755 and captured by the British in 1759. Its thick limestone walls, now cracked and moss-covered after 16 years of neglect, overlooked the narrow waterway that linked Canada to the Hudson River Valley. Inside lay more than 80 iron and brass cannons, some still bearing the fleur-de-lis of defeated France. Leading the daring raid was Ethan Allen, the 6'4" giant from the New Hampshire Grants, now called Vermont, commander of the Green Mountain Boys. These rugged frontier militiamen wore fringed buckskin hunting shirts dyed with walnut bark, leather breeches tucked into moccasins or heavy boots, wide-brimmed felt hats or coonskin caps, and carried long Pennsylvania flintlock rifles accurate at 200 yards, powder horns slung across their chests, and tomahawks tucked in their belts. With Allen rode Benedict Arnold, a sharp-eyed 34-year-old Connecticut merchant and militia captain freshly commissioned by the Massachusetts Committee of Safety. Arnold wore the new blue coat of a Continental officer, gold epaulets glinting on his shoulders, a tricorn hat pinned with a cockade, and a sword at his side. The two men clashed immediately over command, but their combined force, 83 Green Mountain Boys plus Arnold's small detachment, set out under cover of darkness on the night of May 9th. They gathered at Hand's Cove on the eastern shore of Lake Champlain. Under a sliver moon, 183 men crowded into two battered bateaux and several smaller rowboats, flat-bottomed wooden craft used by lake traders. The water was cold and black as they rowed silently across the mile-wide lake. The only sounds the soft dip of oars and the distant call of a loon. By 3 o'clock in the morning, they reached the western shore beneath the fort's southern wall. Sentries had been posted, but the British garrison, only 48 regular soldiers of the 26th Regiment of Foot under Captain William Delaplace, had grown lazy in their isolated post. Most slept soundly in their barracks, red coats folded neatly, powdered wigs hung on pegs, Brown Bess muskets stacked in racks. Allen wasted no time. He formed his men into a loose column and led them up the steep, unguarded slope in the gray pre-dawn light. At the main gate, a lone sentry snapped awake and raised his musket, but a Green Mountain Boy clubbed him down with a rifle butt before he could fire. The Patriots poured through the sally port and into the fort's central parade ground, just as the first pink streaks of sunrise touched the eastern mountains. Ethan Allen bounded up the stairs to the officers' quarters, his sword drawn, and hammered on Captain Delaplace's door with the flat of his blade. "Come out of there, you damned old rat!" he roared. The sleepy British captain stumbled out in his nightshirt, nightcap askew. Allen towered over him, eyes blazing. "In the name of the great Jehovah and the Continental Congress," he thundered, "I demand the immediate surrender of this fort." Delaplace blinked in disbelief. "By whose authority?" he stammered. "By that of the Continental Congress," Allen repeated, and the Green Mountain Boys raised a cheer that echoed off the stone walls. Within minutes, the entire garrison was roused at bayonet point. Not a single shot had been fired. The Americans had taken one of the most strategic strongholds in North America without losing a man. By sunrise, the fort was theirs. The Patriots swarmed over the ramparts, lowering the Union Jack and raising the pine tree flag of New England liberty. They discovered a treasure trove, 83 heavy cannon, mortars, howitzers, and thousands of rounds of ammunition, some still stamped with the royal cipher of King George. Later that same day, they captured the smaller Fort Crown Point 10 miles north with equal ease. The news raced south like wildfire. Within weeks, Colonel Henry Knox would begin the heroic winter trek, hauling those very cannon 300 miles